All right, everyone. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and thank you so much for joining me today on the Friday Masterclass, where we've got a special guest joining us to talk about editing and collaboration, or editing plus sharing and collaboration equals Premiere and Frame.io. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. As you heard me mention a couple times on the stream over the past couple of months, we acquired Frame.io back in October. And we're really here today to discuss, one, why you need to be using Frame.io if you're not already as a Premiere Pro user, but as anyone who's creating, editing, sharing, and I say collaborating, that word is a bit overused. It's more just working with people, and in this case, working with people remotely. What's the best, or what is one of the better ways of doing that? And certainly the more efficient way of doing that. Now, we've had ways to collab and share and work remotely for a very, very long time. I can remember a decade ago sharing then HD files, which seemed so impossibly large, via Dropbox and other services, and Box was another one. I think they're probably still around. But again, with some efficiencies, but maybe not the most efficient way to do things. So we're going to kind of talk about all of this. We're going to talk about this from the fundamental level. I'm going to have Sean kind of go into some of the details and a little bit of the origin story around all of this. So this is an interactive session for the next hour. Bring your questions. All questions are valid, all right? Regardless of what, even if you're thinking like, I don't really do this kind of editing. No, let us know what you're doing. Let us know if you work with others. Let us know the struggles that you're having. Sean can probably help you answer there. As always, of course, if you're wanting to comment live in the chat, this is the one that I am following. I can never seem to find it with my finger there. b.net/Adobe Live. So be sure to log in there, be able to see your chats directly in front of my face. A couple of quick shouts and hellos, of course. Tun, very great to see you. You are indeed tuning in time. Saludos. Karen Brisa, always great to see you from Peru. And I can see we've got Mohammed and Umacorn, Reverb Mike, Rob, Mustafa, Tim, great to see you. Stroofy, Rue, Michael Wheeler, Stony Braswell, Jack Watson, Marsha Grassett, Stephanie, great to see you all. Okay, so without further ado, friends, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to introduce my first guest, Sean McDaniel, formerly of Frame.io, now a welcomed and wonderful part of the Adobe family. Sean, it is great to have you with me on Adobe Live today. Thanks so much for joining. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks for having me on, and it's great to be part of the Adobe family now. Frame.io, very close to my heart. I've been working with them for a few years now, and seeing the journey that we've gone from then to now has been incredible. So it's really good to be here, and it's an honor to be on your show, Jason.
Awesome, thanks. And yeah, and you talk about kind of the journey. Now, we even discussed this a couple weeks ago when we had sort of our pre-call. We've crossed paths over the years, usually literally crossing paths at like a trade show or in a convention hall, kind of seeing each other, sometimes demoing simultaneously, but didn't really directly connect. So it's so nice to finally kind of have you in-house, man, just so that we can chat and kind of get on the same page. So as I mentioned in the intro, what I really wanted to do today, and again, I'll be kind of following all the questions and bringing them to you as we go, is, everybody in some form or fashion, if you're making video, it is very likely that, you are at least soliciting commentary from someone else at the very basic level, right? You send something out for review. Now, of course, you can do this via YouTube, right? Just make it unlisted or make it private. There's lots of different ways to do it. And then there's the other side. So there's the actual just like look at it, yay or nay, and give you that kind of feedback. Then there's kind of that next step up, which is actual commentary where time code might be required, where there's some kind of really precision involved. And then, of course, there's that other challenge of, well, what if it's something that we're not just doing, for a 1 hour piece or a 30-minute piece, but we're constantly needing the ability to upload, review, comment, share, bring back to the editor, make changes. And this is really where Frame kind of embodies all of those things that kind of the modern video creative today can take advantage of, right, in a more efficient way. And that's what I was hoping you could talk about and kind of maybe step us through in a true, everyone here on Adobe Live loves a good origin story. Maybe give us start with some of the backstory around kind of what Frame is, what the impetus for it was, and kind of where we're going to go with it today.
Well, just to kind of go back, I mean, as far as like the old ways of working before, whether it's, Dropbox, whether it's sending a private unlisted link, the biggest issue is being able to pinpoint exactly what somebody's talking about. And you send a video out to a client, you send it out to a director, and they're like, hey, can you change this shot? Can you adjust this color? And well, what do you mean? Like it could be a frame off. It could be a totally different shot at that point in your edit. So with time accurate comments in Frame.io, you're able to really pinpoint what you're talking about. That's just the one part of it. But being able to have one central place to put all of your assets in a hub where everybody can access it at once is kind of the beginning of where we're looking to go with it. But on the other part of Frame.io is we have incredibly fast upload speeds. You could share those files incredibly quick. We've got numerous ways to do that. We've got integrations, obviously, with Premiere and After Effects, but we use other NLEs as well. We've got Final Cut, we've got Resolve, we've got some stuff with Avid as well. So it's kind of an all-around tool where you can make all these things kind of happen and work. But in its essence, it's a review and collaboration tool.
Yep. And I love, frankly, that you mentioned, Resolve, Avid, FCP, something we didn't do years ago, because the realities of the modern day editor today are that we use different tools sometimes, right? It's just how it is. And it's frankly now the openness of everyone to kind of get behind this. I mean, it's so funny talking to some younger editors, even my own kids who edit now, and they they missed. I talk about the old days, the early 2000s or early 2010s, where it was like Apple, Adobe, Avid, and then suddenly Blackmagic and Resolve, and there was really a lot of animosity. Maybe there still is some in the creative communities. Meh, right? Yeah. Whatever gets the job done. And this is where Frame shines. And this is where, again, and talking about sort of that frame accuracy. Now, we used to have something in Premiere years ago. Some of you in the chats may remember. I'm guessing Ian Livesey, how are you doing, man? Reverb Mike may remember. We used to have this thing called clip notes. Do you remember this, Sean?
I don't
notes?
Actually.
You ever hear this? Okay. This is a long time ago.
I come from the days of log and capture, put up your
yes,
DV
okay.
camera. Yeah.
Oh,
those
yeah.
are my old days.
This is the mini DV era. And you actually had a review and comment capability via Premiere where you could generate and export essentially a PDF document with embedded Flash video, send that to anyone, and then they would watch this video in PDF, and it actually had frame accurate commenting and markup in the PDF, which you could then save. And I'm forgetting how you would re-import those comments and things back into Premiere, but there was this method where you literally take that, re-import those comments back. You'd see them in context. It was something really, really cool. But the world wasn't quite ready. And of course, we're talking mini DV, as we sort of got into just the HD and then full HD era, suddenly that method of delivery, PDF, Flash video, it just wasn't ideal, right? Yeah. And as we got into higher frame rate stuff, those formats just weren't designed to handle, there was no concept of 8K 240 FPS. So obviously that was different time, different method. But the issue that always sort of cropped up was, and you sort of alluded to this, where we're talking about, one frame to another with like a color correction or something, maybe it's like my ring light is getting in my glasses. That level of accuracy really matters, right? If you comment on the frame before where there's nothing wrong because there's some inaccuracy because of the delivery method, it kind of makes that commentary less valid, right? And this is, again, where Frame has really leaned into this. There's an incredible level of just accuracy and detail. What you're seeing on the commentary collab end is what the editor will see when they're back in Premiere making those changes, right?
Yeah, and it's not even just time accurate comments either. Annotations being involved in that as well. How do, the director says or the client says, hey, can we reframe this? Can we resize this? Or can we adjust this little thing in the background? Well, what's in the background? Well, you've got annotations. You could draw on it. You could put an arrow to it. You could really get more specific and really bring your team together in the whole creative process. And it's easier to follow that along. And to your point earlier, what you were saying about bringing those comments into Premiere, we've got the ability in all of our NLEs that we have integrations with to bring in those comments directly on your timeline. You can see those annotations right on the screen. You know exactly what you're trying to do. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Tuna just asked a great question. This is probably something I've been thinking about quite a bit. So he says, I see the term IO a lot, but what is IO in the context of, like, obviously I think immediately, import or IO in and out. What is, I don't actually know the origin of the name frame.io. Like, what was it just like in out on the frame? Is that sort of the idea, or was it for something else?
To be honest with you, that question gets asked a lot, and the IO is, I believe it stands for Indian Ocean, which is
okay.
Yeah, that's what that means. I'm not exactly sure, and this is probably more of an Emery question, or John Traver, the founders of the company. But I think it just kind of worked in that environment. But I don't have that exact answer. That's actually a really good question. I'm trying to see if I have in my notes exactly what that was. But yeah, I think it's just kind of worked. I think IO was kind of trending, but I also think it really helped with that domain. I think it helped when you're driving this much media through. I think it helps support that as well. So I'm sure the IO was kind of trending at the time, and I think it still is in some regard.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we were transferring so much media to up and down, I think that's why they went with that.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what. Oh, and Mustafa's saying my story about clip notes. That's a long time ago, right? Yes. That's where I used to have black hair back in the day, if anybody remembers that. And Tim is commenting, yep, IO stands for Indian Ocean, but since it also means input-output, it became very popular in tech. Yes. Okay. So, okay. Well, tell you what. Why don't we've got your screen up here. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up for us. And maybe we can kind of talk about, I see you've already got the panel in there. Now, I've shown this to people before. I don't know if you want to show this. I can pull it up on my side. But just first and foremost, where you actually get the Frame.io plugin. And again, this is something that you can be using today. And the plugin to connect Frame.io to Premiere is actually in the Creative Cloud desktop. So,
well, here, let me open that up for you. Can you see it?
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, there you go. Oh, yeah. You can go ahead and pull it up in the stock and marketplace section.
Yeah, so stock and marketplace, and you just want to go under the plugin section here. Now, you want to make sure Adobe's closed before you do this, because it'll make it easier all the way through. So have Adobe closed, go into your Creative Cloud suite here, and I usually just type in Frame.io here. Mm-hmm. Usually that pops up, but let's see. Oop. And yeah, since I have it installed, it's going to let me do that at the time. But once that's done, open up a project. And then inside of Premiere, to make it easier, it's under Window, under Extensions, and just click on Frame.io. There you go.
Love how you said, and easier. Yeah, kind of, the extensions menu, I have some personal issues with that. But again, why do we do these masterclasses? To reveal things, to drive people there. There's many other extensions and things that can appear there, but that's where you're going to access the Frame.io plugin. That's the panel that you see in Sean's view right now. And maybe kind of, if you could, walk through some of the kind of UI elements of that. Because first of all, I just love the design. And, this was, again, a project where we worked with Frame.io pre-acquisition years ago, right, to make this panel. We do this with a ton of companies, right? Our open API allows these things to occur like this. So this is, again, kind of that first step of this. You have this direct integration into this whole system when you begin, and it starts by just downloading that plugin into Premiere.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it, it's kind of like a part of the application. I don't know if you just saw earlier, but I was able to undock that panel, and I could drag this panel anywhere I'd like. So, I mean, if it's, there's a certain way you like to work with things, you can move it around to where you need it to go. But yeah, we recently just updated this panel to, closely resemble the web app itself. So if you're a web app user, you're not as familiar with the panel inside of Premiere, it's going to be very similar to how it looks on the app. But you could change your teams if you're working with a lot of different teams in your organization. You'll be able to actually access those here, other projects, and just click on those, and your content just kind of pops up. And when you're ready to bring those in, I mean, I'm sure, I'm hopefully most of you are already using Frame.io. If not, definitely jump on it. But it's very easy to go in here and just grab media, import that, Just download it. And you're
Well,
good to
maybe you could talk to that.
Sure.
So how you've got all this media here already. How did it get there? And what's the method of getting it there?
Well, the method for this particular shoot is we used our camera to cloud method, which is the ability to bring in your assets directly on set. So when you record that camera and you hit pause or you cut that camera, it's going to upload a 1080 proxy of that file directly into Frame.io. Now that's obviously, you need a little bit more tech for that, which is, easy to acquire. Just need a Tear Deck Cube 655. Get that into the camera to cloud supported cameras, which are usually, Arri. We've got Panavision, and we're opening up to a lot more camera manufacturers as well. But essentially it's a HD proxy that gets up there, but you're not limited to that. You can upload your media via the web browser. We have Frame.io Transfer, which is a desktop application where you can upload your media incredibly fast. The browser sometimes can be a little tough if you have a lot of media. So we recommend using a separate application. Transfer is definitely one that we want to advise a lot of folks because it works on both Mac and PC.
Okay. So this is an adjunct app to Frame.io web or Frame.io plugin itself. So you wouldn't necessarily be uploading raw content from this panel here.
Oh, you could. Absolutely.
You could though, right? Yeah.
You absolutely could.
Because I'm thinking for, again, if people aren't shooting Arri and they're not shooting really super high-end cameras, I don't have an Arri. I've uploaded it that way. So yeah, kind of at the base level, you can do it from within this plugin directly.
Yeah, you could do it directly in the plugin, and we virtually handle any files. So you just really just need to upload it, and if it's something that doesn't play back, because sometimes there's files that just aren't going to be play back properly. It's some raw media formats. You may have to transcode those before you upload.
Sure.
But you upload them, you give it a try, you see if it plays back, and we handle a lot of formats though, so you're really not going to run into any problems. So for your DSLR shooters out there, for your iPhone shooters out there, you can absolutely use this application and upload. We have an iOS app, so you can use the application and go directly within your photo library, or you can use Google Drive.
Yep.
And
that's actually really important too, because again, I talked about this not long ago, in particular with the new iPhone 13 Pro Max shooting, 4K HDR ProRes. Yeah. Oh my God. Right. I mean,
cinematic mode is the coolest thing on earth. I gotta tell you, I use it all the time.
The funny thing is, I actually, beyond that, I mean, that is super cool. That's great. I mean, everybody, just rack focus is still a cool thing. It kind of feels like it's on the brink of being not cool. If you remember like the early Apple, the iPod and iTunes commercials with the vectorized silhouettes, that was cool for like 4 years.
The headphones and
yes, yeah. And it was just, silhouette on green or silhouette on purple. Yeah, that was super cool for X number of years, and then it just wasn't cool anymore. I have a feeling we're almost going there with the rack focus thing because it is being a little overused. Beyond that, though, beyond the cinema mode, just the actual ProRes footage that this handheld device shoots is just astonishingly good, right? And
there's so many accessories too. You could play, you can have your mic, you can have your cage on there. I mean, you could shoot pro video right in your pocket.
Right in your pocket. Okay, excellent. So, hey, by the way, I don't know if you have accessibility enabled to zoom into your screen at all, Sean. Got some people asking who are watching on a phone. We can enable that real quickly. It would. If you'd like, we don't have to do it here.
No, it's okay. Let's see. Let's make this work.
Yeah, accessibility.
There it is. Under Zoom. I think.
Yeah, and you just want to go into the advanced options, and it should be Command Option Plus. Yeah.
Hey, check that out.
There you go. You got it. Okay, excellent.
Sorry, everyone. It's my first day, so there we go.
They're very forgiving. Excellent. All right. Now you just got to remember to zoom out where appropriate. But no, that's perfect. That's great. Let's keep it zoomed in. We can see it nice and clearly. So it looks like this looks like red footage.
This is actually the DXL2.
The DXL2. Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful camera. The sensor on it is amazing. So if you ever get a chance to shoot on it, highly recommend. But yeah, you can work with even red. Some folks in here probably have some red cameras, the Komodo for sure. we'll work with the camera to cloud. But like I said, you're not just limited to those high end cameras. You're any media that you have. We even take in PDFs too, and documents. And if it's something that can't be played back, you could still use it as a share platform. So.
Cool. So now, again, let's kind of talk through the workflow here. So let's just assume we're doing all of this from within Premiere itself. I've got my footage that I shot on whatever cameras I'm using. I can upload it. Now, this is, again, assume we didn't go through the whole I start a Frame.io account. Actually, I want to get into that a little bit because, again, now, and maybe this is what maybe you pull up the browser for this if necessary, and I could take your screen away if you need me to do that. You need this account because obviously you need to establish this relationship between Premiere and where this footage is going to live so that you can begin to share and invite people, right? And kind of start that. And the plugin in and of itself, it'll ask you, you have to create that account first. So I just want to be really clear. It doesn't just automatically start letting you upload. You need to create that Frame account first, correct?
Yes, you have to create your Frame.io account, head to frame.io, there you go. Create your account, set up your plan. I mean, you could start with a free plan, if you're kind of want to get your feet wet a little bit and test it out. Start out with a free plan, give it a try. If not, try one of our trials out and start inviting some of your teams and, start uploading stuff, send files to each other, see how quick it works. I mean, put it to the test. I mean, prove us wrong. We definitely want to take in that feedback and listen to our users, but yeah, I forgot what I was going to say there, but.
Oh, okay. Happens to me all the time. So we're getting a lot of questions about how it transfers, again, commentary and markup between the web interface and back to Premiere. A couple questions on upload times. How long does it take to upload hours of 4K MXF? And again, obviously you've got a fast pipeline, but it's going to be really largely dependent on, are you on fiber? Are you on, what's your connection? Is there anything specific in terms of data rates that you tend to share out about these things? Like again, we can kind of nerd out here with our audience in terms of transfer speeds and how it handles 4K media uploading. It is a lot. If you have a fast internet connection, obviously it's going to work the best. But here's the thing. If you really, really need to send your OCF files or your high-res files across the platform, you're probably going to need at least 30 to 50 megabit upload speeds to make that work. But, otherwise, set it up in transfer or download the Mac app if you're working on a Mac and set up a watch folder and it'll kind of do it over time. Just, make sure the computer stays on and it'll run overnight. But if you're not needing to upload those files and collaborate, if you have multiple editors or remote editors that you're working with and they don't need that, or they already have the hero media, or you just need to share it, you don't need to upload all of that all the time. You can upload proxies, have them work with that, do an offline edit, and then link it up later. Also too, like if you don't have enough storage in a Frame.io account, you can always amp it up if you need to. But if you don't need to upload those files, you don't necessarily need to do that. Upload some proxies, make it easier for your bandwidth. But otherwise, I would say probably 30 to 40 megabits per second would be pretty safe. But obviously, the faster the better. Sure. Okay, so getting a lot of questions here about just whether this is going to be included in CC or if it's going to remain an additional yearly fee. I don't know that we can comment on that at the moment, but for the moment, it is a separate process. And that's why I wanted to bring up the thing about you need to start that Frame.io account. Actually, do you mind going to the site there so we can just pull that up?
No, not at all.
Real quickly? Yeah, that would be great just to kind of show people here. I'll pull your screen off for a second.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I had it open. Stand by just 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Because I think this is just an important part of just kind of getting started. And then what I'd like to have you do is let's go through that timeline that you've got in Premiere, and then let's actually export a piece of that and kind of submit that so we can begin kind of showing the share process, which I think would be really beneficial. So there we go.
So this is our current plan offerings. Obviously, like I said, you can definitely do a free plan, but we definitely recommend a trial, like really test out the ability in here. So you've got a pro and a team plan. Depending on how you're working, how many users you're going to need, they're going to increase the kind of it'll kind of reach a ceiling on how many users you can add, but it's 15 a month per user per month. And you get, different varying storage options as well as archival storage. So you get that included with each one of these plans, depending on which one you select. But frame.io, head to pricing, and boom, there you go.
Okay. And again, this is where you log in. And also when you try to run the plugin, it actually takes you back to the site, right, to log in, and then it automatically updates in Premiere logged in, showing all of your folders and such.
Frame's primarily for the moment, but Frame's primarily a web-based application. But those, all those, little pieces that those integrations kind of spider out to all the different things. So you'll have to go back to the browser. It'll send you back there though automatically. It'll kind of link you back. But once you're logged in, you're good to go, and you'll be able to access your projects. Here, let me show you what it looks like in the browser itself, in case anybody hasn't seen it. So if I got my team up here at the top, and my projects in here, and of course all my media is stored in these separate little projects. You can add users to specific projects if they don't need to see all of them. So we've got two different user types. We've got our team members, we've got our collaborators, and your team members will be able to see kind of everything, but your collaborators you can kind of isolate to a single project, and they've got limited access as well. So I'm sure a lot of questions in there about security, who has access to this media and things like that. And we definitely put that at the forefront to make a dividing line between those two roles, so that you can decide, how much access somebody has.
Sure. And the nice thing about this is it's fairly consistent with the permissions that we offer now for a lot of our existing Creative Cloud service-based things where they're sharing, and obviously the permissions for editing or review or comments. So I think that's going to feel really familiar with our audiences. Quick question. So someone's asking, is this a bit like a virtual NAS for your for working with this content?
Yes and no. It's a tough question, but depending on how your workflow is, I mean, you really got to find out where you want your central media to be, and a lot of users actually do use it in that way. So depending on how much storage you have and how much you want to store up in Frame.io, you could essentially use it in that way. But we've got some fun things in the pipeline. I can't really deluge all right now, but as far as where it goes, some users are using it in that way. So really just depends on how much storage you have and how much you want to put up here. And
all right. Well, tell you what, why don't we, and you can decide how we want to do it if we want to go back to Premiere for a second, but let's get into, because a lot of people are asking, well, I'm already doing a bit of this, like I described at the beginning, with Creative Cloud or Dropbox now. I mean, Dropbox lets you do comments. They've got time code in them. You can see them in the web. I can just click over to Premiere, go to 1 minute, 30 seconds, 8 frames, and make a change. So how does this differ? Why is this better? And then another question, which if you want to, you can answer now or we can wait. A lot of questions about how is Frame.io different from things like LucidLink? And there I'd say, I would just add that we showed LucidLink a couple months ago on stream. They were specifically talking about storage, right? And shared projects. This is, and I don't know the levels of their review and commenting. I don't remember much of that, frankly. I think that's the larger differentiation between something like Lucid or Teradici and something like this, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to go back to the Dropbox point, I mean, Dropbox was built as a file transfer system for documents and maybe pictures, but the video stuff kind of came later, and Frame started with video. It was built for video makers, for filmmakers, and video professionals, I should say. It was built for them. So the one advantage you're going to get on Frame.io is your upload speed. It knows how to handle all different kind of media types. So yeah, you have frame accurate comments as close as you can on Dropbox. I haven't used it personally in the video part, but I've seen some people leave comments on there. But Frame.io is built for video. It's built for this kind of stuff, and we support the other part of it as well. So we support the file sharing portion, but that's all I could say about Frame and the differentiation between Dropbox is that it's built for video.
And I think that's really essential, because I can tell you even right now, and I have some friends who recently shared some things with some non-video friends via Dropbox. And of course, the first, you get a link on your phone, you go to the link, and Dropbox lets you play it, right? But Dropbox isn't going to have you necessarily view that at 4K, not dropping a frame in full quality, right? In fact, typically just playing it out of Dropbox or really any sort of non-video specific web-based service, you're probably going to get some kind of a downstream kind of a look. It might be pixelated for a moment, clear up, whatever. Frame was designed, I mean, that's the difference, as you just said, is that Frame was designed specifically for video. So the video delivery, the playback, all of these things, they're just going to be better, right? I mean, by design, because they were designed with that in mind, with handling this massive load of footage. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and take this stuff that you're working on here, show us a little bit, and let's get into some commenting and markup.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I've got a sequence here, and, you know, I'm going to go ahead and send that to Jason here. Actually, I don't even know if you're on this project. Let me go ahead and add you.
Okay.
I think I have your email. Do we want to share that out? Do you want to?
Probably not.
No.
I have a few.
Okay, so you're off. Okay.
Did you find me?
Hold on, it's not popping up there, but we can fix that problem in just a matter of moments. Stand by.
Yeah, and that's fine. You don't actually have to add me. It's not a big deal. It's more I you know, so we can kind of see you doing something on the website and then see that reflected on the desktop side too.
Oh, good. All right. So let me go ahead and I'm going to upload the sequence. However, I'm going to add some markers. So if there's a certain moment, let's say the editor's in here and they're like, hey, I like this shot, you know, I want to keep it, which is never something an editor would say. But let's just leave something in here. So I'm going to leave a marker and I'm going to leave my comment in the comments box. I'm going to say, I have some other takes of this. Boom. I could leave just a simple one time code marker. I could leave a duration marker if I want to. I could just drag that little duration thing there. So I can create a what we call a range-based comment. So I can go in here and I've left a comment marker. Let me leave one more. Why not? And I'm just going to say, love this shot, because that's what all editors, we all love the shot, but then the client changes it, right? They all go, let's move that one over.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And all I need to simply do, and for time purposes, I'll go ahead and just select some in and out points so we don't have to do the whole sequence.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, we can just do a small section.
I'm going to click refresh here. And what I simply need to do is just go to upload. And
this is probably a good opportunity to zoom in a little so people can see that UI a little better.
You know what? That's not a terrible idea. There we go.
I'm the king of Zoom, man. I'm going to make you do it.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
All right. So I hit upload. I'm going to upload this active sequence, but I don't know if you saw earlier. I'm sure most of you did, but I can upload files. So I can grab a file from my machine. I can also upload my bin from Premiere. But I can change the name of this sequence, and it's simply this. I can choose an H.264 proxy, or I can scroll down here. And
now, is this using? I see. I was gonna say it almost looks like the same list that we have for our proxies. I think that's just coincidental because I see you've got web 1080, web 720. So yeah, but also ProRes. Okay, yeah, simple. And again, this is by doing it via the active sequence. This is what is essentially tying that commentary, that markup directly back into the editor's timeline. That's the difference here.
Yeah, that happens automatically too. And you could turn that on and off. And the really nifty feature is that if you're in, well, I can show you that in a minute, but when you're in the Frame.io app, you can actually open up a project that it was already linked to, and it opens up automatically. So that's kind of a cool part. But if you're just collaborating, if you're just talking to your team and you just want to upload an H.264 file, you need to upload a ProRes file. If you're just collaborating back and forth, make it easy on yourself and just do a proxy file. And I'm going to do in and out, but I can obviously do my whole sequence. Right. And then if I want to, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I was just going to add, because we were talking last week or 2 weeks ago, I did a multicam stream, and I was saying when editing multicam, when making your proxies for cutting multicam, probably not the best idea to use H.264 because that's not really an ideal editing format. And I was saying, so I was harping on, you should really use ProRes, you should use MXF, whatever. But for review and comment, no. Do yourself a favor, use the smaller, lighter weight. We're not, go with H.264 for this.
Yeah, great point. Thank you for pointing that out on that. So the big important thing that we want to do here, though, export markers as comments. And we can talk about auto version here in a moment when we do another upload. But once that's done, it's going to launch Media Encoder, and it's going to let me it's going to do the render for me, and then it'll just do all that automatically. So really this is my time to go get a cup of coffee or, stretch my legs and let this kind of do what work it needs to do.
Cool. And one thing I noticed there too, which again is just worth pointing out, we see this now if anyone has checked the Premiere Pro beta, where we have currently in beta the modified import-export experience. It's also creating a local, so it's rendering to your cloud, but it's also creating a local file. It looked like it was putting it in your movies folder or something, right? Locally on disk as well.
Oh, yeah. So you have an option to turn that on and off, though, because if you're going back and forth, FrameIO's got the file, so we don't necessarily need to waste hard drive space.
You don't need it, right? Okay, yeah, that's great.
So
and we're done. Look at that.
We're done. It's uploaded. It's still probably doing some background transcoding, because when you upload a file, we save that original file, but we create proxies of those files, which you can definitely download and edit with those. You wouldn't do that with your H.264 proxy, but if you've got, if you're uploading your DSLR footage and you want some H.264 proxies to work with, just upload it to FrameIO. Let it do the work. So while that's kind of rendering, I'll show you if you're downloading a file or importing it. And the difference is downloading would just send it to the computer, but import would let you choose your original or your proxies. And once it's downloaded, it puts it in your project. So it's just kind of ready to go. I'm sure most of you have seen that kind of portion, but choose where it goes, and that's it.
Awesome. All right. So now let's kind of simulate here. You've now, we're going to share this out. We're going to get some comment. You'll be making the comment in this case, but what that experience looks like. Because again, I'm thinking, in my case, here's a good example. Again, talking about this on stream, I let some of my younger son's friends record a bunch of gameplay videos in here, and these kids were going nuts. And I wanted to. This was the Dropbox example I just gave. I wanted to share some of the rough cut edits with the parents. And effectively, if I were using Frame for this, I'd say, okay, yeah, go to the web, because here's where you can say, like, again, there was some sensitivity around, they don't want their faces shown or whatever. These are younger kids.
Of course.
So they were pointing out different, I said, yeah, you can actually tell me where you want, what frame you remove their face or take this out, or I don't want that set. So this is kind of the experience we want to showcase, like what an external person remotely would experience on the web when reviewing or seeing this content via that link that you're going to share.
Yeah, so let me show you what that kind of looks like in here. All right, so we can see the comments I put in from the timeline. Obviously, it's range-based, so I've got that long line there. It gives me kind of an in and out point. Then I've got my single
just to be clear, that's the marker comment that you left, just so people differentiate, because that has a different icon than what we'll see when you do it on the web UI.
Yeah, so this is still in the panel here. Let me actually zoom out. Sorry, iPhone users, if you guys are watching it on mobile. But yeah, so that's kind of what it looks like in the panel itself. But I can jump over really quickly to the browser. Whoops. Sorry, I hit play. My apologies.
That's okay.
People going like this, with their headphones. Anyway, so inside of the web app itself, let me just do a quick refresh here. Let's just, you can kind of see the differentiation of it. But what I'll do is actually just leave a comment on the web app. So let's say this is your client, maybe not your client, but this is your other team members. Maybe it's another remote editor or somebody else leaving notes or comments here. They can go in and go, I don't know. I'm just going to do love this shot. Why not?
Yeah.
Why make it hard? But
a
then
classic, love this shot, or another classic, brighten this up, or pencil. I'm gonna have you do all these things.
It's
we
okay.
Have to fill time.
Let's do it.
Let's be very clear what we're doing.
So I love this shot. Let's do. I could draw on here, and let me show you what that'll look like in Premiere. I always do this big.
I got into using the arrows too. Yeah.
Well, if you want to be super passive aggressive, you could just put a big old arrow there like that. And once I'm done,
this circled area. Right.
If I wasn't clear in the first place, so I'll go back and boom, my comment's already there. If I click on it, there's my
and just for those, if that was kind of fast, so Sean was just playing two versions of himself. A moment ago, we were on the web. It's all the UIs. They're all dark. They all look the same. Everything is the same now. You remember when dark UI was unique in the world for 3 seconds? I can't even tell Chrome from Premiere anymore.
But now night mode is on everything now.
Now night mode is everywhere, right? So
but I love
dark.
it. But I love it.
Too.
I have it on everything, but I get what
I'm looking at YouTube. I'm looking at everything is dark. Every app looks the same now, entirely. I guess they all were non-dark mode before, so they look the same then too. What am I trying to say? You're in the Reb making comments. We went back to Premiere. Those comments are already in the UI. So again, when we're talking about, sort of real-time collaboration, as it were, it's just that word doesn't do it for me. It's just soliciting feedback. Yeah. That's what we're doing. What does collab actually mean? I'm asking you now. I'm putting you on the spot. What does collab mean to you in this video space?
Well, that's actually a really good question.
No pressure.
Think a little bit. Yeah, no pressure at all. Put me on the spot. I don't know. I mean, we all have to do it. I think it's always the cop-out answer. I think COVID accelerated that, but I think it did when we all had to work remotely like this. But collab to me, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's too much collab. I feel like sometimes you can get too many opinions on things.
Yes. Well, and I think what it is it's just it's now extended to anything. I'll give you an example. So it used to be, I'll take everyone's see me, write songs and stuff on here. I'm a songwriter. So I do the music for a piece, and then my friend Tim writes the lyrics for that. He hands me those lyrics. I implement those lyrics. I wrote a melody, use those lyrics with my music. That is a musical collaboration, sort of a 50-50, right? Now, what you hear a lot is, I shot a video and someone made like a drive-by cameo, and it's touted as a collab because there was just more than one person there.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually did much of anything. So I think to strengthen really that sense of collaboration, it's just people actively invested in getting to the finished product, right?
Absolutely.
People who have an active, desire to get this done, and everyone has a vested interest in making whatever this video is kind of look its best. But I love the simplicity here. And again, now talking about just kind of the real, now granted, you're on the same machine, it's you doing it, but when people are leaving comments like that, like again, if you're in Premiere, you step away, you come back, that stuff's there, right? It's almost instantaneous. Again, based on your connectivity and everything else. Here's a question that someone just asked: Can you make comments? What happens if you go offline while you're making comments?
Wow, I mean, that's a great question because that happens all the time.
Sure.
My internet goes out constantly. So yeah, great question here. So if I want to bring those comments back into my timeline, let's say a good example, let's say you're going on a flight and the last thing you want to do is edit something on a flight, but sometimes we have to do it. And if we are flying again on the regular like we are, you're going to want to just bring those comments in. So we've got the ability to bring in those comments right here at the top. Let me zoom in.
Yes.
For our audience there.
Did you read? You read my mind. It's amazing, Sean.
You telepathically sent it to me,
right?
Jason.
Look at that. Amazing.
So there we go. Import comments, and boom, it shows up as a marker. Here we go. Another zoom right there next to my name.
Oh, now is that new that you actually see the frame under the little? I don't remember seeing that before. I love how you can see the actual frame under the comment there.
Oh, this one down here? No. So it kind of pops in and out.
it's just minimized. Oh, sweet. Okay, that's
just
cool.
kind of gets it out of the way. Or you could even double click on a comment and it'll do the same thing. It'll take it down. We made little UI adjustments when our last update, but yeah.
Very cool. Now, in terms of
one more thing on the offline point on our iOS app. We have the ability to offline your videos in the application, and you could still do any commenting. So if you need to leave comments and you don't have any internet connection, make your video offline in the iOS app, and then you could still leave your comments. And then once you get back online, they'll update to frame. So that's another way. That's another way to do it too.
Nice. Yeah, because a lot of times, I mean, I've been in such now. Of course, it's easier to do stuff, flying. Assuming you're not thrown off. But I can remember a time where it's like, okay, download everything because, I'm going to be disconnected for 3 hours or whatever it is. But it's really, I think the system of relinking those comments and kind of uploading once you have connectivity again, it just works as expected these days. Whereas I think back in the day, it was kind of a, if you did something online when you weren't connected and then assumed it would just sync up later, that was,
never worked.
I'll give you $1 to gamble in Vegas. You probably have the same odds,
I'd most likely lose it.
Yeah, same. Okay, excellent. Okay, checking through some of the comments here. Okay, so Sam Padula is asking, can we toggle between accounts without having to sign out and then sign in again with different credentials?
Well, that's a good question. It depends. I mean, if you're using multiple accounts, one thing I would ask is why you would be going into different accounts when, if you have another account, you could just invite yourself to that account, if that makes sense.
Right.
So you could invite yourself as a team member or collaborator to that. And I mean, you could easily just click on it here. I'll show you really quickly. Let me minimize these. I've got my team here at the top, but this other option here is another account I've been invited to, whether that's my own and I can invite myself as a user, or if that's somebody else on my team, or a whole nother company in general. I mean, if you're a freelancer, you might be working with different companies, and they may have their own Frame.io account. So if you're added to those, you can access all of that right here, depending on what permissions they give you. But yeah, I would expand on what having multiple accounts is.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, Sam, if you can give us a little more context. I'm guessing, I mean, I don't know. And he says, okay, I didn't know that. Thanks. Great. There you go. So yes. So rather than using multiple accounts, just invite yourself to some other team or whatever, and then you're part of it. You don't need to sign in, sign out.
Yeah. If you've got your own account, I mean, depending on, your workflow or what projects you're working on, you can have multiple projects that you can, put different stuff in. You don't have to have one Frame account. Just to be clear, you don't have to have one Frame account for one project or one client. You can have multiple projects and stick a folder in between each one, or have a project for each one and divide them out on your own account. Unless you have like a personal Frame.io account, maybe a work Frame.io account, that would be the only differentiation on that. And if you're inviting yourself from one or the other, it will count as another user. So, you may want to think about your workflow. So
makes sense. So a couple questions here, and Mustafa is asking too, if you could touch upon the versioning stuff. And I don't know if this timeline, if you have examples, but we could also, of course, go to something else where you've done some of that. And this is great too, because we just added versioning for Lightroom CC. So again, just kind of speaking to our greater Creative Cloud audiences here, I love it when we have a product like Frame that becomes part of the family where there's just consistencies in things like versioning, which is just automatically something that now people will understand, whether you're in video or imaging or whatever. They kind of get the concept and curious to see how it flows and works on the Frame side.
So probably a good place for me to start is on the web app itself, just to kind of introduce you to the world of versioning. Okay. So if I'm in here and I don't have another export here, but let's say I'm in my, I just have 2 video files here. And let's say all of these different squares are multiple edits and they're revisions or different approvals or whatever. If I want to clean this up and make this into one single stack, I could simply just drag it on top of the other video and create a version. And automatically my project or inside of my web app is going to get cleaned up. Now, the only reason why I brought it up in the web app version, so you can kind of see how it works here, but in the panel itself, let's say I've got this sequence here and I want to duplicate. Let me duplicate this sequence. So I can quickly find it here. I'm just going to duplicate it, which every editor does. We're going to rename it.
Oh, yes.
Call it 3. And now if I reopen it, because like I said, when you're doing revisions and changes, you're going to want to duplicate that sequence. And this is important because this is a step that a lot of editors are going to want to do. And the big question is, well, is it going to version? Well, let me show you. I'm going to clear these markers just so we don't re-upload the same comments. And I'm going to do another in and out sequence just so we can save on time. I'm going to upload active sequence, and we'll make sure the auto version's on, but there's that rendered file. So if anybody was curious about that, you can check mark that on and off, and you can point that anywhere you need it to go. But I'm going to auto version it. I'm going to turn that off. I don't need that either. And
now, question, if your in and out isn't identical, will it still auto version because it's going off of the sequence name? It's not like a time code based
it's
version?
going off the sequence name, and it should link up. I'm going to let's put
he says with slight trepidation.
Sometimes you're so confident in something, but yes, it did do auto version for me. You could see the little 2 in the corner here, and it's
Sean. This is why you're on here. I knew you were going to take it. This is live, man. We take a chance. I love it.
We got it. You
got to believe.
And look, that belief worked. My dollar, I won that dollar back.
You won the dollar back.
I got the dollar back. But here we go. It's versioned, and then if I go into my browser, let's get out of this.
Yeah, and it looked like, again, if you could zoom for it. So is there an icon on there now that indicates 1, 2? It's hard to see.
It's okay. Let me go back to Premiere. And boom. There we go. So I've got that little 2 in the corner, and that number in the corner represents that it's a version stack. And of course, the number is how many versions are in there. But yeah, so once it's done, it does that version stack. And then this little button here on the corner, this little link to sequence, is reminding you as a user that it's linked to a sequence inside of Premiere. So even if I don't have this active sequence open, so let's say I had another edit in here somewhere else and it was linked, I can actually just double click on that file. I don't have it here as an example. I'm sorry, I don't have that. But
yeah, no, that's okay.
I could just double click on that file and it'll open that sequence inside of Premiere. So that's kind of cool as well. So you may not even be actively seeing it here. That's another way to quickly go back to your project. This is something that was a little newer that was updated
I love
recently.
It.
But yeah,
I love it. It's intuitive. It makes sense. Also, Annika is saying she believes. Yes. Thank you. All right. So we're in our final couple of minutes here, Sean. So I'm seeing a lot of fire emojis. I assume that means that this is a fire prezzo and not on fire.
Yeah, let's hope it's not on fire.
Yeah. So if you had to, in the last 2 minutes here, kind of just give the overview of why should people today leave this stream, go to frame.io, sign up, try the free account, and start working with this? 2 minutes. 2-minute pitch. Why? Or less. Doesn't have to be 2 minutes. I'm not timing you.
It's okay. I thank you for not timing me. But no, I mean, if you're interested in getting into a cloud workflow, which is where the industry is going, cloud is a huge conversation that people are having. I was just at an event this last week, and the whole conversation was about cloud workflows. This is kind of the beginning, and Frame.io is definitely refined its roots in this environment, and we've got some great things in the pipeline. So it's not a better time to kind of get in it now, because this is where everything's going. So if you're looking to dabble in a cloud workspace, have your dailies available for you on set, being able to work with teams. I mean, no more at any point in our lives we ever interacted with people all over. I mean, back in the day, it was you had to be in LA, you had to be in New York, you had to be in certain places. Now you can live in the middle of nowhere, have an internet connection, and converse and work with the rest of your team. So, and Frame.io is the place to do it. And I don't mean to sound sales pitchy. I know that's not this kind of audience.
Too late.
But I mean, I used it as an editor. I worked for a lot of different companies, and Frame.io was the tool that did it. It was just like, put it in Frame. It was just kind of a word everybody used, and it just became kind of the standard. But if you have a lot of media and you've got a lot of stuff, put it to the test, upload things. Our support team is amazing. So they're going to be with you every step of the way. So you go to our little question mark here in the actual, I need to refresh my little, for some reason my computer is being a little sluggish today.
Oh, but, that's all right.
Click on that little question mark. It's the same on the web app itself. Click on the question mark and you get right to our support team. I mean, they're there to help you. They're not just there to help with, issues with Frame. They're there to help with workflows. They're there to help make your life simple. So you're not just going to be invited to jump on a Frame and just start working. You're going to be invited to be part of a community and be part of an experience. Yeah, that's probably that's kind of the Cliff Notes version I can give on that.
All right. I love it. I love it, man. Well, I got to say, thank you so much for joining. Now, this will not be your last time here on Adobe Live. We're already getting a lot of love in the chats. Everybody's so glad to have you here and welcoming. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's stream. Again, of course, the replays will be available immediately after we're done. Sean, you will be revisiting us in a couple of short weeks' time, perhaps talking about some other things that may have developed by then. We shall see. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So until then, it's going to be really super cool. Again, I invite everyone to check this out today. It doesn't matter what kind of stuff you're shooting. It doesn't matter what kind of video you're making. If you are doing stuff that will involve anybody else's input, this is the best way to do it. And as Sean described, the reason for it, and as I often say, Sean, not only does this sound salesy, because it is, it's also true because this was designed specifically for video playback, for video, frame accuracy, and the ability to work, again, in the cloud, back to your desktop, and just be so much more efficient in this entire sort of remote cloud-based process. But that is all the time we have, everybody. So thank you so much for joining. Sean, thanks again. We've got the DCC coming up next. So everyone have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.